Hey there friends, this is Michelle from LaFonda Crafts. Welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of a Chinoiserie wreath that I'm making. So there in part 1 I had made the butterflies that I will be using as embellishments for this wreath. I will link part 1 in the description of this video, and I will also have these videos on a playlist of wreath attachments and wreath embellishments that I have made. So who misses Joann's? I miss Joann's. I loved buying wreath supplies and florals there. I always found stuff that was really different than what Michael's or Hobby Lobby has to offer. So I really do miss their store. So this hanging bush is from Joann's. I still have some of Joann's stuff in my craft stash, so I'm just working through that. Although this is a hanging bush, I'm not going to drape it very much. In fact, I even have some wisteria that I'm going to use, and they're shorter pieces, so they're going to drape somewhat, but not very much. So I'm just gluing in the stems into the grain of the grapevine, and I'll use some zip ties just to hold this greenery like at the length of it. So I'm just kind of adjusting it there, and this bush had different lengths of the greenery, so it kind of gave you a lot of different options. So I'm going in with some shorter pieces as well, and it's really pretty greenery because it's got the green and the white tips, and it's just very airy, and it was one of my favorite bushes that I would get from Joann's. So I'm just going in with my glue gun, using the Gorilla hot glue to glue everything in. I'm using some small zip ties to attach the greenery to the wreath in several places. I usually get zip ties at Harbor Freight. They have a great selection of zip ties, different lengths, colors, whatever you need. So I'll just continue working to add this greenery in. I won't show the whole process of me adding that greenery, but I'll come back and it'll be a lot more filled out. So now I'm going to use this ruscus. It's from Michael's, and they usually have it in the springtime. If you are interested in anything that I've gotten from Michael's, just comment below so you can say like Michael's or supplies, and I'll provide those links for you if I don't already have them in the description. So a lot of this comes from my craft stash, so I don't have too much of this ruscus. So I'm just kind of trying to go through my craft stash. Of course, I always need to buy greenery. Greenery is something that you always need. But a lot of the florals, I'm trying to go through those, seeing what I have, seeing what can go together really nicely before I buy too many more florals. So I cut up these pieces that I have of the ruscus. I'm just seeing what I have available and where I want to place everything. So I'm just kind of keeping track of how many I have and where I can place them along the wreath. And this is a really nice greenery from Michael's. It's just the leaves are small and it just gives a nice airy look. So I'm just trying to place those all around. And usually on my wreaths, I try to have at least 2 different greeneries just to give the wreath some texture and some interest. So I'm just showing you there that I'm going to continue filling out with that ruscus. So I've filled in with the greenery, and those 3 peonies are going to be my main blooms on this wreath. And those again came from Joann's, but you can find really nice peonies in like your other craft stores like Hobby Lobby. They have some nice peonies. I believe I've seen some at Michael's too, maybe not this big. So I have 3 that I'm putting in that transition point. So the first one, I want it to be facing out, and the other 2, I'll have them face different ways. I would like to keep things very natural looking. So in nature, you're not going to have flowers, generally speaking, you're not going to have them all facing one way. So I'd like to repeat that in my wreath, so have them kind of facing other ways. So that one that I just placed in, it's kind of facing up and out. And then this third one is going to kind of be facing downward. So again, I'm just adding everything in with my hot glue gun. And I'm trying to keep the 3 flowers kind of in a triangular shape. I don't want them all in one straight line, because I think keeping it in a triangular shape, it just gives it more of a dynamic look. So there's that third one. And I'm gonna hold the stem here with my pliers, and I'm gonna bend it down a little bit just so it'll face the way I want it to face. These are the wisteria that I was referring to before. These actually came from Walmart, and they're really nice. I had used part of this bush before, so these are the shorter blooms that I've got. So I'm just going to work them throughout the wreath. So I'm kind of doing a dry fit, seeing where I want these to go before I glue them in. So once I decide how I want to place them, I'll add them in with the hot glue. So if you haven't checked out some of the florals at Walmart, I encourage you to do so. They really do have some that are good quality and very pretty. This particular wisteria bloom, I think they have it out like now in the springtime. And the leaves on this bush is actually, the leaves are actually very nice. Sometimes I'll buy a bush that I really love the florals on them, but the leaves are not very pretty. Like actually those peonies. The peonies are beautiful, but the leaves were not very nice. So the wisteria, the leaves are actually very pretty. I end up using them in this wreath. So I'm just going around adding them where I want to add them. Like I said, they're not gonna drape down very much because these are shorter pieces. But if you wanted a wreath with a more drapey look, you could certainly use something like this, but just use the longer blooms to drape. And then if you find a greenery bush that's really drapey, you can just let it drape like towards the bottom of your wreath. That would give it a really pretty look. So I'm actually trying something a little bit different with this tutorial. If you've seen some of my other wreath tutorials or centerpiece tutorials, since a lot of the instruction is very repetitive as you're adding in your florals, I tend to speed up that portion and maybe play some music. But today I decided to just not speed things up, just to keep them in real time, but sort of skip some of it. So like with all the greenery, I just added a few of the greenery pieces, and then I stopped recording and just came back when more of it was filled out. So you'll have to tell me what you prefer. Do you prefer seeing the whole process and me kind of playing it sped up, or do you prefer this where I play everything just in real time, but just show you a few things being added and then come back when things are all filled out? So let me know in the comments what you prefer. These are the leaves from the wisteria bush, and I'm just adding those throughout the wreath. So this is now the third type of greenery that I'm adding to this wreath. I actually end up using 4 different greeneries, and I think that just gives your wreath a lot of visual interest and different texture. So I'm just pointing out that I'm going to add the leaves throughout the perimeter and also in the inside of the wreath, like in the inner portion of the circle. For this chinoiserie-inspired wreath, of course, we need some blue. So I'm using these blue agapanthus stems. They're also from Joann's. They're really pretty. And I'm just going in between 2 of those peony blooms to break up some of that white. So as you can see, I like to use a glue gun. I've never used a glue pot. The area where I work is just really small, and I just feel safer using a glue gun. I'm always afraid with a glue pot I might like drop something in there or, burn myself. But, whatever you feel most comfortable with. I know there's so many advantages to a glue pot. You probably work a lot faster. You just have to dip your stem into the pot. But I just feel more comfortable with the glue gun. So I'm just working my way around the wreath with the agapanthus, just trying to spread them out and have a nice distribution around the wreath. At the end of the video, I'll show some close-up shots of the wreath so you can see it in more detail. And you'll have to let me know what you think, how you like it. As you can see, I didn't add a bow to this one. Most of my wreaths have a bow, but this one I decided just to do the cluster of peonies. And I like it. I have made several wreaths without bows, and I like those just as well as the ones with bows. So you'll have to give me your thoughts on that. So I added the rest of those blue flowers, and now I have the butterfly embellishments that I made in the first part of this series. And the butterflies had come on a wired stem, so they were perfect for adding into a wreath. So I'm just adding this one to my little peony cluster. And I'm just kind of adjusting the wired stem there. This one I'm adding towards the bottom. And the third and last one I'm going to add towards the top. So as I was adding this one, I realized that it was angled pretty much like the other two. And I wanted to angle it the opposite way just to give, some variety to the butterflies. So I grabbed my needle nose pliers to hold on to the stem, and since it's wired, I was able to just kind of twist the wire and turn the butterfly the opposite way. This boxwood greenery came from Michael's from their spring section, and I'm just going to go ahead and fill in anywhere where I see holes in my wreath, or if I need to cover up more of the grapevine, then I'm going to use this. If you've watched this far into the video, I want to say thank you for spending some time with me. I hope you've enjoyed watching and you've learned a thing or two that will help you in your crafting journey. If you feel like subscribing, I will be so thankful for that. It really does help me in my own crafting journey. And I hope you join me for other videos and other tutorials. So I will say that I've continued here adding this boxwood greenery, and then I do go in with some blue filler flowers. Unfortunately, I thought I was filming, but I wasn't. But it was some blue filler flowers from, again, Joann's, and they're beautiful. They're just little blue wildflowers, and I added them throughout the wreath, and they just really filled it in nicely. I just loved how it turned out. So I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you'll come back. So this is the bush I'm talking about. Of course, now it's pretty much empty because I had already added the flowers throughout my wreath. So thanks so much for watching, and here's the final wreath.